What was the first claim you made? Where the first one, where people are like, "Oh shit, this guy's up to something." That was kind of weird. What's he talking about? What's the first thing you said that became a reality that at first everybody fought you on it? Because we have this one. If you can play this one here, this is July 25th of 2001. Okay.
Whose family builds all the military.
Go back. There you go.
A threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system. A big part of this solution, after you research all the government terrorism and check out what I'm saying is true, call the White House and tell them, we know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s.
So you say this, pre it going national.
And by the way, I did a 2.5-hour show that people only have that clip. It's in one of my documentaries. I need to find it and re-upload it to the web because when they took my YouTube, it all got erased. That's a copy of a copy of a copy. I did 2.5 hours specifically saying they're going to blow up the World Trade Center. Call the White House, tell them don't blow up the World Trade Center. So I'll find that full clip this week because it needs to go up, and I'll put it back up.
Yeah, and by the way, we have your permission to use your clips.
Anything you want. It's all free to air.
So okay. So when you did that, what is the reaction from that to 9/10? Like we're like, what are you talking about? That this is going to be happening? You must be losing your mind. Like, what was the reaction people gave when you first said that?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I already had a local radio show in 2001, and I'd been fired off local radio, so I was doing it out of my house, but it was actually on satellite and on probably 100 stations by then. But this is pre-YouTube, so if I wanted to be on TV, I'd use the studio as a local access station. So that's a 2.5-hour live show I did one night, a few months before 9/11. And what was the question?
No, what I'm trying to say is between this, when you make that claim.
Oh, I remember the question. I remember.
Pre-9/11, during that 2-month period, what's the reaction from people to you? And then right after 9/11 happens, what do people say about you?
Sure, what happens, I was kind of going back in my memory and then trying to find exactly, and that's why I was just kind of tracing back to the point, because then once I remember one thing, I remember the rest. This is a crazy story. Okay, so I would do live shows once a week there, but we'd turn a tape in that they'd air like 10 more times on average. So I shot this live, turned the tape in at Access TV, and on the night of 9/11, the 2.5-hour show aired. Wow. And I got death threats and everything else because they thought I was saying that day that the government had done it when I was saying July 25th. But later, the date came out, people figured it out. So people were completely freaked out. They didn't know what was going on. A little bit after this happened, they sent some FBI agents, in like as plain clothes to the access station one night when I was there trying to talk to me and stuff and asking me questions. And, hey, what do you know about terrorists? Do you know anything about like, teams or teams of people? And I'm thinking, oh, you're an FBI agent. Well, I don't know what you mean teams. They were trying to imply like I had terror teams or something. I guess this struck a nerve. So they sent in a couple FBI agents. But I was on my radio show. We ought to find the archives of that, saying they're going to do it because I could see the pre-programming where they're saying terrorists are about to hit, and when the terrorists hit, you've got to give up all your rights. And we're going to have troops in the streets and blah, blah, blah. And I saw a couple of globalists, Gary Hart and one other guy, on CNN. And this is right before I went on air and did this. And they were basically saying life's about to change. The world's about to be completely different. We're going to have to take your rights away. Terrorists are about to hit. And I saw articles in the local paper saying that. I saw the pre-programming, like a rollout was happening.